Hello everyone, this is chapter 4 of Mechanics Pearson Edexcel IAL, and the name of the chapter is Dynamics of Particle Moving in a Straight Line. Basically, this chapter is based on the forces which are acting on a particle that is moving in a straight line. So here some of the terms we need to understand before we started doing the questions. So in this video I'm not going to explain the how to solve the questions, rather than we will be focusing on some main and major points which are based on the forces. So the first point is force diagram. The first exercise is completely based on this topic of force diagrams. A force diagram is a diagram that shows all the forces which are acting on an object. Each object is shown as an arrow pointing in the direction in which the force acts. For example, this is an object, and if a force is acting on this direction, let's say right direction, so we will show it with an arrow. Force diagrams are used to model the problems which are involving forces. Let's say there is one object and so many forces are acting on it. So we have to see what is the resultant force, in which direction the object will make a move. Now, when all the forces which are acting on an object, they are balanced, then the object is said to be in equilibrium. For example, here is an object. One person is pulling from here and one person is pulling on the opposite side with equal force. So this object will not move, it will be in the equilibrium position. Now we have a Newton's first law of motion, which states that an object will stay at rest and an object with moving with a constant velocity will continue to move with the constant velocity unless an unbalanced force acts on it. So if this object is at rest, it will not move until and unless you apply some force on it. And if an object is moving with a constant speed like this way, it will not change its velocity if you don't put any extra pressure, any extra force on it. Now, when there is more than one force acting on an object, in that case you can resolve the forces in a certain direction. So for example, this is an object, a force is acting this way, so you can resolve this force in the horizontal direction, in the vertical direction, how much will be the effect of it. That is to find the resultant force. The direction you are resolving in becomes the positive direction, and you add the forces in that particular direction, and in the opposite direction forces you will cancel them from, or you will subtract them. So whenever we have to find out the resultant force, like what is the actual force applicable on an object, that is the resultant force. So resultant force acting on an object, that will cause the object to accelerate in the same direction in which the resultant force is applied. Now we have different types of forces. So we are focusing here the contact forces and few of them only. So the first force is the normal force, and this is a contact force. Here the contact means it is a contact force. When an object comes in a contact with another object, then only this force is there. Now in maths, the meaning of normal is perpendicular, and that plays a very important role for the normal force direction. The force is exerted by the surface. For example, this object is placed on this table, so this table will exert a force perpendicular to its surface. So the surface is horizontal, so it's perpendicular, that is the normal force. That normal force is known as the force which is acting in the perpendicular direction to the surface, and this is shown by R in the questions. Sometimes we use the symbol N also, but the forces, they must be in contact. The object must be in contact with another object. If no surface contact, no normal force. Sometimes we show like Fn also. So these are the different cases. One is this case. Here is then another object. This is the water here, and here is a boat. So there is a normal force in the upward direction. This is an inclined plane. So here we have this object and the surface is inclined, so its perpendicular will be like this way. So therefore the force is shown this way as well. Okay, so this is quite important point, like how to show the direction of the forces and how to explain each of the force. So this is one of the force, normal force, and in most of the questions, whenever there will be a contact forces, we will include this normal force. Then we have another set of force, that is known as the frictional force. Now what is the meaning of frictional force? This force is basically arises due to the air resistance or due to the fluid resistance, but in our questions it will be due to the rough surface. So whenever there is a rough surface, there will be a frictional force. What will be the direction of this force? If the motion is in this direction, or we are pushing this object in the right direction, so friction is always opposing that motion, so it will be in the left direction. And because this is again a contact force, and here is the surface, this force is in the parallel direction to the direction of motion. The direction of motion is the right direction, and the direction of frictional force, because of the rough surface, it is the left direction. If there is a smooth surface, there will be no friction. Then we have, this is another case. Here the object is moving, let's say this side, so the frictional force is on the opposite side. Then we have the tension force. This is again a contact force. This is the force along a rope or a string. So in your questions you have to see, if there is a frictional force, if there is a tension force, if there is a rope or a string, that means there is a tension force. And tension is always equal and opposite. So for example, here we have two people and they are pulling the rope. So when this man is pulling the rope, there is a tension create. So one is, he is pulling this side, this man, and this man is pulling onto the other side. So whenever there is a rope shown and here are two objects, okay, so the force of tension, it will be always this way, opposite. Okay, so this is represented by the T or FT, both ways you can say. So this was all about this lesson, this video. In this video we have just explained what is a force diagram, what is the meaning of equilibrium, in which direction there is a motion, and that will be, if there is an unbalanced force, then only there will be a motion. There are some contact forces we have explained, like friction force, tension, and the normal force. Thank you.